What would be your priorities in terms of trying to deal with all of those various things that you say people are feeling stuck with?
My first priority are the more than 90,000 households. You're looking at maybe 150,000 of our neighbors. They're waiting for affordable housing and on the waiting list for more than 10, 12 years. It will happen. It will happen. That for me, building affordable housing, giving hope to folks that are stuck on this waiting list, for me, is the top priority.
There are other things that you've said that people feel stuck doing.
Yeah.
Gridlock, transit, among other things. Beyond that, what would you say the next in line might be?
Well, the gridlock, stuck in traffic, whether you're in a car or in a bus, that's important. That is a very high priority, improving our public transit service, because it's the best way to get around because you can't deal with the congestion problem unless you have good transit. And the transit, the service is being cut and the fare goes up, which can lead to a downward spiral.
We need to talk about the polls. Before you even declare that you were running, you were leading in the polls. It's been that way ever since. Some would basically say that the reason for that is name recognition. Before we get to your values, your platform, why do you think that you're leading in the polls as well as you are to this point?
I'm not sure, but what I do know is I am connecting with people. I am hearing them very clearly about what they need, what they want the city to be, and how the city can serve them. And hearing them, understanding it, feeling it, and saying, yeah, let's do this together. I think people are at a stage to say, it's still a beautiful city, but we could do a lot better. And that feeling of unease, I get it. And I think the vision that I am presenting, which is of hope, of caring, getting unstuck, getting life more affordable, I think is connecting.
When it comes to taxing and increasing taxes and the various revenue tools, let's walk through this. There are a number of things that you said need to be increased. Maybe give us some of those examples.
Well, when someone is buying a home, 20 million, 5 million, those are luxury homes. You're talking about 2% annually of the sales of new homes. They can afford to pay more on the land transfer tax. And when they buy a new home, pay a bit more so we can find the money to house some of the homeless, to help them heal. Okay? And if you're a speculator that are leaving the house empty while you're waiting for a time to rebuild or renovate, but you've already evicted the tenants, I don't have much sympathy for that. Rather than 1%, you can pay 3%. Vancouver is at 5%. Okay, so you will get some money out of that. There are other revenue tools that we could look at.
At this point, obviously, that's an effort to be done. We've heard John Tory and other mayors before that saying we continually need help over and over and over again. As of right now, it's up to the city to try and find those ways. The one big question around taxation, though, and yourself, is property taxes. At this point, will you be raising property taxes beyond the rate of inflation, and by how much?
Well, the old ways obviously didn't work. That kind of negotiation behind closed door, even City Council didn't know. People of Toronto are not involved. That's not my style. I've always believed that we are stronger together, so we absolutely will bring citizens together. The other thing too is putting a budget together, you have to look at what your needs are. When I was on the budget committee for 10 years, we start by looking at what are the needs, where we could find the funds, and build the budget that way. And that worked. Now it's the other way. it's arbitrary, pick a percentage and then try to stuff whatever things is in it. It doesn't work that way. You look at the last 10 years, it hadn't worked. And it just means that a lot of citizens or residents in Toronto don't feel they're involved in the process. I'm not going to say this is the percentage. We don't know what is the rate of inflation. We don't know whether the federal and provincial government will come to the table and by how much. So there's a lot of uncertainty for next March. So I can't predict what it's going to be, and for me to say, here's what it is. I don't think it's a good way. That's not how I would put a budget together. And I do want to say, though, that it would be modest in terms of an increase, because affordability is something big in my platform. People can't afford. Now, some can. Those already, I'm trying to deal with that. But there are people, ordinary folks, are barely making their mortgage these days, right? So, and if you have a big property tax increase, it gets transferred to the renters, and that doesn't help. So be modest, but in terms of a precise percentage, I don't think that's how it should work. By opening up the budget process, people will realize that we need the federal government to come to the table. So, yes, negotiate, but you also need to show your muscles. If you don't show your power, it won't work.
On a provincial level, it's another story right now.
It sure is.
How do you go about doing the same thing or getting along with the province and Premier Doug Ford, who you ran against in 2014?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got along quite well during that long election period. Doug Ford loved the city. He loves the people in Toronto. I don't doubt that at all. If you truly understand the impact, the negative impact some of his policies has, right? And if you say that we're going to make you whole and pay, I'll take his word for it. But if he doesn't actually deliver or do what he said he would do, then he will have to face his people, whether it's Etobicoke North, all over the city.
Your values don't necessarily line up with those of the Conservative government on a provincial level. We've heard Doug Ford say multiple times, we don't want a lefty, so to speak, in office at City Hall. Aside from the people that are potentially going to elect you, how do you have those conversations with somebody who clearly has said he doesn't want someone with your values and somebody that's running on your platform in office?
I find the best way is not to argue about opinions, is to share experience, is to say, Doug, you too have been stuck in traffic. You too are seeing people desperately in need of housing. And you can reach people, because we're all human beings. You can reach people by talking about the experience that we all share. And I'm sure he understands that more seniors needs housing. And some are now, they die before they actually get a unit, okay? And I'm sure he feels it too. So having those experience, those stories, connect with him, and then say, this is what you can do to help, I think work. I've had, in the 30 years I've been in elected office, often work across the aisle. Whether they're liberals, conservative, left, right, center, whatever it is, I've worked with them.
Let's talk about the police budget as well. Many people have said it needs to be cut back. Many people have said it needs to be increased over time. Where do you stand? Are you defunding the police budget at this point? Do you plan on cutting back? What do you plan on doing with it?
Well, the police themselves would tell you that a lot of their calls really they shouldn't be the one going out there because they're not trained social worker, they're not psychiatrists, they're not public health nurses. When people are experiencing a mental health crisis, it's not the cops you need. You need a psychologist, a therapist, or you need someone that are trained to do that. And let's divert those calls. In the city, there's a community crisis service. Works really well, except that it only covers a portion of the city. Let's make it 24/7. Let's expand it to everywhere, including all over the city, and maybe even getting into the subways, into places, libraries where some of the folks are at right now because the shelters is full. Then once you're able to transfer the 911 calls, those calls to 211, to the crisis team, then you can actually then free up the police to do what they do, what they're trained to do. So this whole discussion regarding police funding and who goes, will solve itself by diverting the right kind of calls to the right place.
People want to turn to and look at 2014 and the last time that you ran for mayor. We've seen the polls to this point. You had the same thing going for you at that time as well. You were leading in the polls and then something happened. We've got just a few weeks left to go. How do you go on? How do you go about holding on to this lead as far as the polls are indicating versus what happened that time?
In 2014, you would have seen a stack of paper, maybe a binder in front of me, and I'll be flipping the pages and looking at the script. Because I was a bit conscious of my language skills. I was doubting myself. This time I said, well, okay, my English is not perfect, but I think you perfectly understood what I was trying to say and how I'm trying to communicate it. I don't need the binders and the scripts. I could just do it, given the experience that I have, 30 plus years, and that what people are telling me day to day, I get it, I understand it, I feel it, and people also has a sense, I think, that I care about this city, that I want to have a city that's more affordable. And they're hearing that message. So in the next 3-4 weeks, I will do exactly the same, share the vision of a caring city, look for ways to make life more affordable, and let's keep each other safe, support each other, make people feel they belong to the city and they belong at City Hall, then hey, I think hopefully it would work out.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.